Do we really need another Voigtlander APO lens? Let's find out. Hello, Matt here. So in today's video, I'll be reviewing the new Voigtlander APO Scopar 90mm f2.8 VM lens Leica M out. In this video, I'll be testing the lens on various Leica cameras, and this is the first of a three-part series where you see me head over to Poland to do some real-world testing. Let's first look at the lens spec, and then we'll get into some sample photos. Stay with me until the end and I'll give you the verdict of whether or not I think you should buy this lens, and also some alternative 90mm lenses for Leica M cameras. So in terms of specification, this is a Leica M mount rangefinder coupled compact mid telephoto lens. It is short enough in length at only 6 cm to be used on a Leica M camera without any viewfinder blockage. Being a small lens, this has a 39mm filter size, which is great for us Leica shooters that use other 39mm lenses, and it weighs in at only 250 grams or 8.8 ounces. In terms of the lens optical design, it is 7 elements in 7 groups, and it has 10 aperture blades. This lens will give you perfectly circular bokeh at f2.8, f4 and f22, similar to the designs of the 35 APO and 50 APO lenses. This lens is all metal and glass with a wide knurled metal focus ring and no focus tab. It has a focus throw of around 90 degrees, making it very quick for focusing, and has a minimum close focus distance of 0.9 meters. The Voigtlander APO Scopar is a f2.8 maximum aperture lens going to f22, and this comes with half-stop aperture clicks. And like many of the other Voigtlander lenses I've reviewed on this channel, this lens does include a lens hood, and it's really nice that it reverse mounts onto the lens for travel, making it a very pocketable size lens. You can buy the APO Scopar in black or silver, and the lens is priced at $799 on Amazon.com and £719 in the UK. As with all Voigtlander lenses, if you buy from robertwhite.co.uk and use the discount code Mr. Leica, you'll get 5% off the purchase price. Now perhaps onto the more interesting bit. Here are some sample photos while I talk about the character of this lens. So these photos are all shot in Poland, in Gdansk, during a 1-week trip, and the photos are shot on a APS-C mirrorless Leica CL and a full-frame mirrorless Leica SL camera. I was also using the lens on my Leica M4P film camera, but I've not yet had a chance to develop the film. Being an apochromatic lens design, this lens seemed to have very little vignetting, very little to no distortion, very little to no chromatic aberration, minimal flare with or without the lens hood. Although I must just note that I didn't actually see any sunshine during my week in Poland, so I couldn't actually test any real-world harsh sunshine into the front of the lens. I did try to test it with artificial lights and I didn't see any flare. In terms of contrast, I thought the lens had good contrast. These photos are shot with the Leica SL, and even with the snowstorm that I was kind of working in, I still managed to get some nice contrast in the blacks and kind of the mid-tones. All the photos in this video were shot in RAW, whether it's the Leica CL or the Leica SL, and then I applied my Mr. Leica Lightroom preset for the Leica SL camera to both sets of files to kind of give some similarity across the images. The snow really helped to give kind of a timeless look to Gdansk, and so I managed to shoot some film as well as the 2 digital cameras which we're reviewing here. I've written a full blog post to accompany this review and I'll link that below, so feel free to check that out if you want to review any of the photos seen here at your own speed. The deep lens hood of the Voigtlander APO Scopar really helped in the snow because it allowed me to shoot when otherwise I wouldn't have been able to. These last few images were shot on a different day where we kind of had some heavy mist. I love the compression from using the 90mm on the APS-C sensor to give me 135mm equivalent. You can see from these detail shots that you can get really nice shallow depth of field even on an APS-C camera like the Leica CL. Now in terms of bokeh, I tried to do some night shoots to get some bokeh testing. The bokeh is circular in the centre of the field and then goes to more kind of rugby shaped balls or cat-eye shape at the edge. I did a studio test here where you can see the shape of the bokeh at different f-stops, going from f2.8 down to f22, and then here I moved the frame from the centre to an edge to try to show you the cat-eye bokeh effect as you move the circle of bokeh towards the edge of the frame. Colours, I was tending to shoot most in black and white, as you can see from the sample photos, because of the grey skies and snow and kind of grey look of the winter. Black and white tended to suit the vision that I was seeing, but I did try to do a few sample photos in colour, and colours seemed to be well corrected and, as expected, natural looking colours. Now in terms of sharpness, I was testing this against 2 other lenses, and I can definitely tell you that this lens was a lot sharper than one of the other lenses I will be reviewing. This lens was more than sharp enough at f2.8, and it seems sharp almost corner to corner by f4 onwards. Being the lens geek that I am, I did some comparison testing at Infinity in Poland. So here is the original scene, and then here is a crop of the original scene shot at f2.8, f4 f5.6 and f8, and I think it is slightly softer at f2.8, but from f4 onwards it's really sharp. I then wanted to do some more control testing back in the studio, so here's me now testing the lens at 1 meter distance, and I use my Hasselblad SWC-M as my model. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a review on this camera. I was then interested to see how sharp this lens is compared to my Leica 90mm lenses. So I shot this lens against the Leica Macro Elmar 90mm f4, and I also shot it against the vintage Leica Elmar 9cm f4. To my eyes, the sharpness and contrast is better on the APO scope R than against the two Voigtlander lenses, but you can make up your own mind from the photos. The Macro Elmar is a great performer, but in this test the APO scope R seemed to me maybe even slightly better, perhaps one stop sharper. And so the big question is, can I recommend the Voigtlander APO scope R 90mm f2.8? The answer is yes. This lens from my testing is as good as the Leica Macro Elmar, which is 4 times more expensive. The small size and low weight of this lens makes it great as a walkabout lens for, say, travel, and I found it really nicely balanced on both a small compact Leica CL and also the larger Leica SL. The lens attached to my Leica CL could easily fit in my pocket, and my bag strap broke, so that worked really well. I could even fit it into my pocket with the SL, it just wouldn't quite zip up. Being a 90mm f2.8 lens, I found it really flattering on a full frame camera for portraits, and then I also found it really great for extra compression on a APS-C camera to get kind of some cityscape photos, and also really compressed portraits where I brought the background much closer just by using the crop factor of the Leica CL. If you're a fellow Leica M shooter, there are some alternative 90mm lenses you may want to consider. There are lenses like the discontinued Leica Elmar 90mm f2.8. That lens is 33% longer and almost 50% heavier than the APO lens, and it costs roughly the same price used as the APO does new. You could get the older still Leica Tele Elmar 90mm f2.8. That's smaller than the Elmar, but still I would go for the APO, being a more modern lens if you want a more corrected lens. You then have lenses like the Leica Macro Elmar 90mm f4. This lens is slightly smaller than the APO in terms of both shorter and lighter at only 230 grams. The difference is this lens costs $4,000 new or £2,800. And from my testing, the APO can hold its own in terms of image quality against the Macro Elmar. And then lastly, you could consider the vintage Elmar 9cm f4 lens. This lens is the same weight as the APO, and the design is narrow and slightly longer. This lens will give you a lower contrast look, but it also offers probably the best bang for the buck if you are looking for a cheap 90mm lens. You can buy the vintage Elmar for as little as $150 or £100. I'll put some links below this video if you want to check out the prices on eBay. If you enjoyed my photos from Poland and you want to see more, feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications so not to miss the next 2 videos. And with that said, my goal for 2022 is to get this channel to 20,000 subscribers, so I'd love it if you could help me reach my target. Hopefully the channel will then get access to a wider range of cameras and lenses for me to test that I can then share with you guys. Here are some more example portraits using the 90mm lens. I was doing some behind the scenes videos for Patreon, so you can see me using this lens in action. These are shot the Leica CL. You can see the compression and really helps bring the background closer to the back of the model. And these were shooting in the dark on the roof in the snow. Oh, another behind the scenes Patreon clip. I was teaching how to light as well as kind of posing and things like that. And here are the photos just with my preset applied. I don't do any other. I only did the basic preset edit for the YouTube photos. Here's me in action photographing the models. This is me using a combination of artificial light and daylight. There was very little daylight, so I was really glad I took my own lights with me. And with all that said, a massive thank you to Flaghead Photographic who sent me this lens to review, and a huge thanks to my awesome patrons. See you in the next video.